So this is the first video in a series to show you how to run the COVID production pipeline. I'm going to start like very much at the beginning, assuming that you don't have anything set up in order to sort of make this run and work. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to install miniconda, and that's what this video is going to cover. If you already have miniconda installed, and I will show you how to check here in just a second. You can skip this video and move on to the next part. So I'm starting from a terminal on my local machine, and the first thing I'm going to do is SSH into the cluster. If you are on a Mac, you probably do it the same way. If you're sitting on a Windows machine, you're probably using PuTTY to connect to that cluster. Regardless, we both should land in the same place, which is either on submit 1 or submit 2, one of the two login hosts. While we're here, we can go ahead and check to see that if we've got Conda installed. So I'm going to run which Conda. So which is a really useful shell command that is available in any Unix shell, and it'll tell you the path to executables on your system. So which is going to go look in all of these places on my computer for executables, and what it's telling me is it doesn't find Conda in any of these. What this looks like on a computer in which you do have Conda installed is like this. You'd run which Conda and it'll give you a full path to an output. Okay, so we shouldn't do anything on the submit host pretty much ever, so the first thing we'll do is qlogin. I'm grabbing a small qlogin here, just 10 gigs and a single thread. We don't even need 10 gigs, but that is sort of my default setup. I'm doing this on the D cube, though it doesn't matter which queue you're on. Okay, so we're going to go put our miniconda installation in IHME code or share code, which both point to the same place. Code. So IHME code is very much like share scratch. It's one of those directories where you're supposed to store stuff that is related to you in particular. This one's set up to hold on to code so that when you're running things on nodes, you've got fast read write access to the code in particular, as opposed to places that are meant to store data like share scratch and J and team dedicated share mounts. So unlike share scratch, which they automatically make a directory for you with your username when you're hired and sort of go through all your paperwork, they don't make one for you in IHME code. And so if you don't have one, you can just make one just with mkdir and your username. Mine's going to tell me I've already got a directory, so I'm just going to cd in there. Let's clear out this. Okay, and as you can see, I've already got a directory with miniconda 3 in it. It's got all of my normal programming environments and stuff. So I've done some stuff to ignore this directory, and we're just going to start from scratch. You can pretend that doesn't sit there, and we'll just install into a different directory. And so in order to do that, we're going to go to the Conda website, which is docs.conda.io, and we're going to find the miniconda installers, which if you're here is /en/latest miniconda.html. And we are installing on a Linux system. We're going to go ahead and grab the latest version that exists, corresponds to Python 3.8. This Python doesn't matter. What we're going to use Conda for is to build programming environments that are specific to the processes that we want to run. And so I always just grab the latest Python here, and then I can figure if I need a particular version of Python for a particular process, I'll set that up in an environment. So what we're going to do is we are going to right-click on this link, and we're going to copy the link address. And we will use a tool called wget, and then we'll just paste in that link. What wget does is it goes to the web and gets things for us. And so this is pointed to a web URL that ends in a file. And so it's just going to grab that file and download it here. So now if we look here, we have miniconda 3, latest Linux, x8664.sh, which we're just going to run. I'm going to run it with bash. Okay, so the installer is going to have us read a license agreement, which you can spend as much time as you would like reading. I've installed miniconda about 100 times, so I'm going to skip through until it tells me whether or not I accept license terms, to which I'll say yes. The second prompt, however, is important. The second prompt asks us where we want it installed. By default, it's going to try to put it in your home directory, and we don't want it to go to our home directory. We want it to go to ihme code. So we'll do ihme code, your username, and then because I already have that miniconda 3 directory, I'm just going to call this one miniconda. Okay, so this part's going to take a little bit. It's going to go download a bunch of files and install them on your system. So I'm going to pause here, and I'll come back once it's done. Okay, so the installation process has finished. I'm just scrolling back here. So this was the last bit we just talked about changing the path, and then after that, you're going to see this over and over again with Conda installation. It'll build whatever you want to install. It'll build this package plan, which says what are all the things that I need to install, and then tell you again that it's going to install all that stuff. And then it'll like prepare and execute the transaction. This is the part where it really sits for a long time. But all that stuff is done, and now I'm sitting at a prompt that's asking me whether I want the installer to initialize miniconda 3. And what this means is it's going to edit your bashrc, which is this file that runs every time you log in to the cluster or open a new terminal. And it's essentially going to make sure you can find Conda every time you install. I'm going to say yes here. Unless you're working in a pretty complicated programming environment, or I'm not totally sure how this interacts with the shared environments. But you can always delete these lines of the bashrc if they're causing you trouble later. So this is going to go, and it's going to tell us to do exactly what I'm going to do next, which is to say close and reopen my current shell. And so I'm going to do that just now. So I'm going to back all the way out, back to my local machine here. And then SSH back into the cluster. And so before, when I ran witchconda and it said I didn't find anything, now when I run it, it is pointing to this place that we just installed in ihme code miniconda bin conda, which is great. And that's pretty much it for this video. So the next one will start getting set up to do the snapshot and ETL process. So I'll see you there.